Hi guys, it's Taylor and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing my much anticipated review of Seafire by Natalie C. I should say that this whole shebang, this review, is more of a rant. I've seen a lot of hype for this book before it came out and after it came out, and its rating on Goodreads is unbelievable. And I just wanted to ask a few questions, such as who, what, where, when, why, and how. How? So I wrote down a bunch of notes during my lunch breaks at work so I can discuss them with you, and we are just going to go through this point by point, and hopefully this will come out like something of a structured and well-balanced review. So we're going to start with the summary, and I'm going to try and describe this mess of a book. I should note that I read this book way back during the summer, and it took me so long to kind of figure out my thoughts and try to comprehend what my eyes just looked at for a couple days. So this book is about Caledonia Styx and I guess her friend Pisces. Oh my god, how am I gonna get through this? And they're on this crew captained by Caledonia's mother, and Caledonia and Pisces have two younger brothers that they love, and it's this sort of future fantasy world, which we're going to get into later. And there's this warlord named Eric, and he's like a pirate lord, and he like sinks ships and takes prisoners, and I guess wants to rule the seas. I'm assuming, I think that's his motivation. He actually doesn't show up in this book. So, while Caledonia and Pisces are on this island gathering supplies, I guess they're the only two that can do it. No adults whatsoever. They're like 14, and their parents are like, yes, go run off onto this island and forage for food, even though we have a bunch of adults on this ship who could probably do it better and are much more well-equipped to do this, but I guess you can do it. So they do it, and Caledonia is, like, captured by one of Eric's crew members. They're called Bullets, which, okay. And she accidentally gives away the location of their ship, and Eric's men, like, sink the ship and kill Caledonia and Pisces' family, and their brothers, and so on. And Caledonia doesn't tell Pisces that she's the reason the ship sank. So, years pass. Like, we don't even know what happened in the years that passed. We just know that years passed, and all of a sudden Caledonia is a captain of an all-female pirate crew thing, like, ship, and they're, like, taking down bullets, kicking butt and taking names, and they capture this one bullet who, like, saved the life of Pisces during a raid, and maybe he's not bad, but Caledonia doesn't believe that because she believes all bullets are evil, and Pisces wants to spare him, and Caledonia wants to kill him. And he reveals that he knows the location of their brothers. So now Caledonia and Pisces' crew, and my phone is going off, I guess I'm popular now. Okay. So Caledonia and Pisces' crew, as well as Caledonia and Pisces, decide to go off on this adventure to find the ship where their brothers are on. So that's what happens. So in a very, very flaccid attempt to be balanced, I'm going to talk about what was good in this book. The list isn't very long. Oh my god, what is good in this book? Okay, trying to figure out what's good in this book. The cover is cool. I mean, I think the cover is actually really gorgeous, and that's part of why I picked up this book, which is what makes me a fool. But I think the cover is beautiful, and I think the concept of an all-female pirate crew going after this warlord is pretty compelling. Unfortunately, the execution was bad. It was just so bad. So now on to the bad, which is a much longer section. Where to begin? There's so much. Okay, let's talk about how this book presents feminism, because this book was marketed as like this feminist pirate story. Everyone's talking about it, and about how super feminist it is, and it's really not, you guys. I mean, I'm not a expert on feminism. I do identify as a feminist, and I did study a lot of feminist theory when I was in college, both for my English major and for my Media Studies minor. So I do know a little bit about feminism and what makes a text feminist and what it doesn't. And let me be clear that everyone has a different idea of what consists of feminism, but the fact that this book is lauded as a feminist book, how? I really don't see how. So the female characters are all supposed to be like kicking butt and taking names, and that's wonderful, great, perfect role models, girls fighting and having control over their own destiny, perfect. Except that's all there is to these characters. Like, in theory, there's not. The author gives, the author will introduce a character and then give us like 2 to 3 of their dominant personality traits, and we're just supposed to take that at face value. Like, she introduces one character, like, here is Lace. She's super sweet and nice and a capable crew member. And that's it. Like, we don't really get enough time exploring that, or what makes her so sweet and nice, what makes her so well loved amongst the crew. I think Red Tooth or Red Bone, whatever her name is, I don't remember because I don't care. This one girl who like dips her hair in red dye and fights, like she's the coolest character there, and that's just because she's the fighter and is kind of salty maybe. But even then, the author just tells us, oh, she's a fighter, she's tough as nails, and that's it. That's all that's there to her. Maybe they'll expand more on these characters in future books, but okay. Oh, I did forget some other aspect that I did like about this book that's not feminist related. There is deaf representation in this book, which is awesome. Love it. Cool. She doesn't have a personality either, so that's where we are. I mean, the Dresden Files might be sexist as hell, but at least the female characters are compelling and interesting and have more than 3 dominant personality traits. I mean, obviously they're written as walking sex dolls, but, you know, there's something interesting about them and compelling about them, and while I'm not going to say that this is morally better than Seafire, from a storytelling perspective, the female characters are far more interesting than in Seafire. And, like, at the end of the day, our 2 main characters, Caledonia and Pisces, their motivations are very male-centric. I mean, I have no problem with motivations being male-centric, except that they don't really have any motivations for themselves as much. You know, the minute they find a boy, I don't even remember the name of the bullet they captured, he's just boy, their motivations turn to, should we let this boy live or not? And then it turns to, we have to find our brothers, which I don't mind as a concept, but when they're lauding this as a feminist story, where the females are all, for the most part, self-actualized, that's not interesting, that's not compelling, and you've made the story about saving the men. Which, once again, it's not bad, I'm very confused about this choice. I'd also like to point out the weird sort of hypocrisy around the crew being all female. It's kind of reminded me of the new Ghostbusters film that came out a couple years ago, you know, the one that all of the men were crying over because they were all female, which, fine, okay, like, they're all female, great, perfect. But you have to do something with them that also makes it feminist. Like, just saying it's feminist and casting females does not make it feminist. And just like that, in Seafire, I couldn't see why the pirate crew had to be all female. Like, I understand that, I think that, I don't know if they lay this out too well in the book, but bullets are an all-male crew and they hurt women. Okay, but boys, young boys are kidnapped and taken onto these ships. People are taken against their will and forced into this sort of slavery. They're drugged, you know, there's no way for them to leave. So why doesn't Caledonia's crew take in males that were captured, or young boys that were captured? It seems kind of cruel that they, like, liberate all of these women and then they just leave the little boys there. Like, I'm not saying that happens in the book, but it's kind of happens. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly. But, you know, there isn't enough understanding when it comes to the fact that these boys were also victims of Eric's abuse and reign of terror on the high seas. And that's kind of how I feel about the 2016 Ghostbusters. Like, yes, it was feminist, but did people also forget that it was kind of racist? But I digress. I don't want to bring up this whole conversation right now onto my Seafire review because there's a lot already. Next up, let's get into the characters. We've got Caledonia Styx. I can't even take her name seriously. Like, am I the only one who doesn't find this name, like, ridiculously stupid? And you take it from someone who loves Throne of Glass books. Like, the names of Throne of Glass are stupid, but I can't see Sarah J. Maas going as far as naming her character Caledonia Styx. It's a little too on the nose, in my opinion. But yes, about Caledonia. Good character concept, good background. I like the idea of her carrying around this guilt of being the cause of her and her best friend's family dying, as well as countless others. I think that's a really good place to start for a character. You know, I'm a sucker for books with a good redemption arc. However, her execution was just, it wasn't good. You know, her fatal flaw was that she was too stubborn, which obviously isn't a super good trait in a pirate captain, but she was stubborn to the point that she never listened to anyone else or their ideas, and was just very much like, this is my way, this is how we're going to do it. So that does lead me to kind of wonder why she got the respect of her crew. Like, why do they respect her as much as they do? Because as far as I know, there's no real reason for them to follow her. Like, she's not the strongest or the smartest or the most charismatic, as far as we know, of the crew. So why is she the leader? I know she started it, but as far as I know, Pisces is far more likable. And probably should be captain, in my opinion. And let's get to Pisces. Oh man, Pisces. So, you know how I mentioned that Caledonia is kind of responsible for Pisces' death, and that, you know, Pisces found Caledonia with a knife in her stomach and her family dead, and basically she had figured out that Caledonia was the reason that her family died. But when Caledonia tells her, there's no real reaction from Pisces. Like, I don't know, if I were Pisces, I would maybe try to deny that my best friend was a part of this. And I know rationally Caledonia was a kid, but when you find out your entire family was murdered because your best friend made a stupid mistake, even if she was a child, I'd be really, really angry. And that's the thing, like, it's not rational. Like, something like that, grief and anger are not always rational, and that's okay. And I think they're trying to make this sort of feminist message about sisterhood and that it knows no bounds. But what would have made this relationship and story stronger is if there were consequences for Caledonia's actions. Like, the consequence, I guess, that the book is going for is that, you know, she's guilty and she's holding this guilt and it weighs on her. But there should be some sort of real-world consequences. I'm not saying she and Pisces' relationship should be broken forever, but there should at least be some sort of strain, some sort of anger. Maybe Pisces does stay with her, but she can't even bear to look at Caledonia, or just doesn't want to speak to her, or even needs some space. But Pisces is just way too forgiving. Caledonia tells her that she's the reason her family is dead, and Pisces is like, oh, I know, sometimes it just be like that. Let's get to a minor character, Lace. Once again, another case of they told us what her personality was, but didn't show us what her personality was. Oh, this is Lace. She's the sweetest, most pure being on the planet. She dies. Of course she does. But when she dies, we maybe get why the crew is mourning, but I don't mourn. I don't care, because you never gave me a reason to care. You told me she was sweet, but we don't really see any of that happening. Okay, so we go back to little lovely Hime. Let's go with Haim for now, just because it's easier for me to pronounce, and I only have so much time on this camera. So, this character is quite the character. We've got Defra, first of all. Great, wonderful, cool. There's nothing else to her, really. Here are my notes about Hime that I took. She has a long-lost mother, and they were reunited in a very confusing and random way. I forgot about this. So, as far as we know, Hime was separated from her family, and she joined Caledonia's crew. She was, like, rescued from the bullets, and she joined Caledonia's crew. And so Caledonia and Pisces and the gang are sailing to go find their brothers, and they end up in this land that I guess is water, but there's a lot of grass, and their ship is captured, and they are taken to this land. And all of a sudden, you hear someone go, oh my god, it's Hime! And Hime's mom is there, okay. I don't even think we'd heard of from Hime about her family or her mom, or that she missed her mom. How did Hime not know that this was where her family is from? Like, maybe I'm missing something. Like, I honestly believe I'm missing something, because there's no way a plot twist as lazy as this could exist in a book. Like, books are all full of, like, weird happenstances and coincidences that probably wouldn't happen in the real world, but it was just so lazy. Like, Hime just shows up and her mom is there and they reunite. And then there's this whole mini arc about whether or not Hime is going to stay with her mom or stay with the crew. And we don't really know. Like, I feel no connection between Hime and the rest of the crew. And we just found out she missed her mom, I guess. And so they're going to leave the place. And they're like, oh, is Hime coming or is she going to stay with her mom? And there's like this whole, like, I guess sort of conflict, and they're about to leave, and then Hime comes with them for some reason. Like I said, I really don't know, because she and Caledonia have kind of been fighting for a good portion of the book. So there was a weird romance in this book. Caledonia and the bullet they capture, boy, because I don't remember his name and I can't be bothered to look back, are, like, they form this romance even though Caledonia has been threatening to kill him, or at least strand him, this entire book. And out of nowhere, they, like, suddenly love each other. And to be fair, Boy is probably, other than Pisces, the nicest and most sympathetic character in this entire book. Like, I just feel so bad for him, because I get that Caledonia has to learn to, like, trust other people and trust bullets and realize that they're not all bad. But this man was kidnapped and forced to be this pirate crew, is drugged constantly, finally saves someone, does some good, and is, like, thrown into the prison immediately. So I do feel bad for him. So the fact that he and Caledonia form a relationship I find a little problematic, because they haven't, you know, developed both as individuals and as a couple well enough for them to form this sort of trust. It just happens. Honestly, even though it's not a real thing in terms of psychology and medicine, I am convinced this boy has Stockholm Syndrome, because I genuinely don't know how he likes her at all. Okay, so I guess all we have left is the other category. So, let's get to other. So other stuff that just bothered me, it has, and this is just more of a personal problem that I have with books and movies and TV shows, just any medium, is the big speech trope where someone is called on to, I guess, motivate a bunch of people, and just right out of thin air, they have this inspirational speech that people automatically know how to answer back to, like, who's your friend who likes to play? And then all the other people will scream bing bong, and they just know it. And I hate this trope so much, because it makes me cringe. It's so, because none of these speeches ever come off as motivational. They just come off more as cheesy. I wish I had tabbed this book but I didn't know it was going to be so bad. Oh my god, it's so bad. I can't read you all of it, and I don't want to, but here we go. On the back of the sea, who do we trust? She called. Her crew answered together, our sisters. Caledonia raised her voice a little more. When our ship falters, who do we trust? Our sisters. In a storm of bullets, who do we trust? Their voices spiral together, rising up like the early morning sun. Our sisters. With a grin, she finished the call. We fight together. And they responded, or not at all. All the screaming of our sisters makes me think this is more of a sorority than a pirate crew. Not to denigrate sororities, because I was in one. If you don't know, I was a sorority girl, but even we didn't scream out our sisters as much as they do in this book. I also like the imagery of, like, or not imagery, but like the idea that Caledonia has, like, mandatory rehearsals for her crew to go to practice these, like, inspirational, like, speeches. Like, maybe at noon they have a blocked off hour for practicing speeches like this so they can sound cool whenever they're about to go into a battle. I don't know, like the whole scene just makes me cringe because it never happens in real life. They did it in Pirates of the Caribbean, the third movie, and I hated it then too, but even then it was much cooler because they didn't really have a whole back and forth shebang because it was done on the fly. Still embarrassing, but still not as bad as what this book hashed out. Something else that bothered me, and maybe this is just me being weird because we don't really do this in America, but the girls keep kissing each other a lot, and not in a we're in a relationship or I have a crush on you so I'm going to kiss you way. It's just a friendly casual thing you do with your friends. Like if my friend were upset or sad about something, like I just go up and plant one on her, and that doesn't happen. It happens a lot more in like Hispanic cultures just because when I have been around some, not even my Hispanic relatives don't even do that, but people who are Hispanic and they'll kiss you on the cheek, but you know that's cultural and it wasn't established that this was cultural. They just up and kiss each other, I'm assuming on the lips. They never describe anywhere else. They just say, oh, she kissed her, and maybe it's on the cheek, but I feel like you would elaborate that. So I'm assuming people are just going around kissing each other on the lips, which, once again, I'm not saying that it's wrong if it's like born out of general attraction, but this is just casual. Like some of these people aren't even attracted to girls, and they're just they're just kissing people randomly. So I'm assuming it's just a thing they do with their friends, and I thought that was just a little bizarre. There was also an LGBT plus couple in the book, like two females are together, but I think it's like the lovely Hime and Amina. I could be wrong about that, but I know there were two, and I think Hime was part of a couple. And they exist, like literally the author tells us, oh, they're together and they hold hands sometimes, but you don't really see them as a couple, which is weird because you get a lot more of Caledonia and Boy, and during that whole relationship she's debating whether or not she should kill him. So you'd think they would try to counter that with a functional relationship, especially one that's LGBT plus rep, but I guess that would have been too good for this book, so it didn't happen. The writing also wasn't very engaging. I found myself so bored. Like, it just was not good. I don't get it. People are talking about how great the writing is, and it's not good at all. Not saying I could do better, but it's not good. Also, the world building is really, really weird in this book. Let me start off with saying that this book needs a map. Like, there is no map. Oh, isn't that pretty? Another good thing for this book, and that brings us up to what, 3 good things, 4 good things? Like, there's no map in this book, but, it needs a map. Like, they don't even really describe the world that well. Like, you find out that, I guess the entire world is flooded, and there's like a net, and you have to punch through the net, but I don't know what the net is. I'm assuming it's just a formation of rocks, but maybe it's a physical net. Maybe I'm just stupid and I can't see all of this. But as far as I know, it's not really explained. My other thing is that, and maybe this is just me missing some of the marketing for this book, or maybe it's just me being stupid and assuming stuff that isn't there, but I thought this book was a fantasy. As far as I know, it's not. It's science fiction. It's a dystopian. Like, they kind of hint that this book takes place in the future, and a future where global warming has happened in full force and the earth is flooded, and now we're all pirates. And I didn't even realize it was fantasy until the characters just whip out machine guns and start going to town on these bullets. And it's science fiction, I guess. This world is just weird, it's bizarre, I don't like it, it's not that compelling. I don't even want to really be in it. Not even outside of the dictator stuff. Any of that other stuff, like they explore this criminal underbelly, and that should be the most interesting part, but it's kind of boring. Oh my god. The world is boring. It needs a map because I don't know where anything goes or where these characters are. Maybe that's my fault. I don't know. So yeah, that was my review of Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. Was it good? No, it was terrible. Does it deserve the, 4 out of 5 star rating it has on Goodreads? No, it was terrible. Does it deserve all of the hype it's getting? No, it was terrible. That's not to say that if you liked it, you're a bad person or your opinion doesn't matter, but from what I'm seeing of this book and of my personal opinions and experiences, this book isn't good. I feel bad because I really, really, really wanted to like it. If you know anything about my channel, you know I tend to like overhyped books and I tend to see past all of its mistakes. Why do you think I still read Throne of Glass after all of these years? But this book just didn't have enough. At least Sarah J. Maas' books have what I consider to be relatively interesting characters. Yeah, they're not always written the best, but at least they're entertaining, and at least she's a good writer. The names, oh my god, the names were so bad. Caledonia Styx. Oh my god, Caledonia Styx. Maybe if this book had had one more rewrite, it would have been there for me, but this ain't it, fam. So yeah, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've read Seafire, what you think of it, and if you liked it, please let me know why. I would really, really, really like to get maybe a conversation going, or I at least would like to know what I'm missing from this book, because as far as I know, I don't get it. I'm sorry. I really don't. And I'm not trying to say Natalie C. Parker is out here being a bad person or that she can't improve as an author. If you know anything about my opinion of Children of Blood and Bone, is that it's good, but it's a debut author's book, so it's not going to be perfect. But yeah, I digress. Let's have a conversation about this book. I'm actually really excited to see what people will say about this review. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on my social media. I'm especially active on Twitter, and I will see you all in my next video, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.